Good.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to our first meetup of 2019. Happy New Year, belated. We've got a bunch of stuff to cover, so we're just going to get right into it. But first, I want to say, feel better, Mike, since he's not able to be here. So, shout out to Mike Solon. So, if you see him around, ask how he's doing. So, let's go to what's new. So while we were out, there were some updates to Mojave, also iOS, tvOS, and watchOS updates. A bunch of stuff to Office 2019/365. We'll talk about some things that happened security-wise, items of interest, and conferences. So first up, Mojave updates. So while we're away, 10.14.2 and 10.14.3 were both released, as well as a supplemental update for 10.14.3. The supplemental update included the group FaceTime effects. 10.14.2 added the ability for administrators to enable file vaults via MDM profile for mobile accounts and users created by MDM. Also, we, 10.14.2, allowed users to reset the login password at the login window when that password is expired by a password policy. And in 10.14.3, well, for when you make connect to a file share using Kerberos, it now no longer prompts you for username and password, which is something that was very annoying. So the security updates include a lot of CVEs that were closed for both 10.14 and 10.14.3. Obviously, I forgot the 10.14.3 supplemental one, but that one includes the group FaceTime fix, which we'll talk about more later. And I also forgot the link for the security updates for High Sierra and Sierra, which are the same as the security updates. But it says here. Yes, I know. I'll update the slide afterwards. iOS 12. So while we're away, 12.1.2 was released, and 12.1.3 and 12.1.4. So lots of updates to iOS. Obviously, the 12.1.4 patches that group FaceTime bug. 12.1.2 fixed eSIM activation, which was convenient because 12.1.1 introduced eSIM activation. So, 12.1.3 was a big bug fix update, and of course, the 12.1.4 fixed the bad FaceTime bug. And here are the links for those security content. So tvOS and watchOS. tvOS 12.1.2 was released. Nothing big, but just closing a lot of holes in there. Same thing with watchOS. So not a lot to talk about that wise. Nothing new was introduced in any of those. There was quite a bit happening on the Office world, though. While we were away, 16.20, 16.21, and 22. 16.22 was released not that long ago, actually. Had the date wrong, I think. 16.22 was released earlier this week, I think, or last week. So. So the features and lecturing matrix I have up there. Teams is now included in the Office Suite install as of 16.21. Although on Microsoft's website, it's CDN website anyway, it's designated as the Pro version. Because you can get a version of 16.21 and 16.22 that don't include Teams. And the Pro version does include Teams for those of you who are moving to Teams. Trying to move to Teams. So, also, while we were away, Office was released to the Mac App Store. This is for all Office 365 subscription customers only, or accounts only. The big difference is that if you go the Mac App Store route, you don't get the Microsoft Auto Update tool. And so the App Store manages those updates. The other thing about not getting the Microsoft Auto Update app is that you don't get access to the insider tracks. So, so that's something to consider if you want to, because like deployment through the Mac App Store probably solves for probably a couple of different scenarios, but not all of them. And whereas like traditional deployment can get you most scenarios, especially if your management system has both on and off ramp. So, in 2016, there was a bunch of updates actually since I think the last time. We are at like 16.7 now. And it's still supposed to be end of life October next year. So there's probably going to be a bunch of 16.16s coming out soon. So speaking of, I didn't make the slide, but I know Microsoft Auto Update 4.8 has a hard requirement of 10.10. So so I think so if you have Macs in your fleet that are less than 10.10 and you're using Office, I think 4.7 still works, and will probably you're probably stuck on 2011 because I think 2016 has a 10.10 minimum too, doesn't it?
I think so.
So yeah. But yeah, so basically they were just cleaning up some stuff. I think also in there that as of 16.21 or 22, Microsoft is now only supporting N-2.
As of 21.
As of 21. So, so right now that means Sierra is the minimum for anything that's 2019 or 365. And of course, come October, September, October, that'll go up. So, the update. Moving on to security. So our friend Patrick Wardle posted his annual malware of 2018 roundup. There was apparently a lot more than I was thinking. I think we only hit the highlights on these. There was a lot of things that he had listed that I forgot about or didn't hear about. But it's a pretty extensive list. While we were away, something that hit the news was a gatekeeper bypass via exe files in the Mono framework, which is not a non-trivial exploit, and it's because you basically install like the compromised exe file, and you use the Mono framework to run it natively, run it on the Mac, and that exploits a few things that way. But it seemed very, very fragile when I was reading about it. So I don't know if we'll actually see it in the wild. But you never know. And of course, somebody could also improve on it and see what happens, and all of a sudden you see wine icons opening up in your Mac. So, of course, the big thing was the group FaceTime listing bug. Anybody not hear about the group FaceTime bug? So, yeah, it's one of those things where there's a big oops on Apple's side. But they moved pretty quickly to mitigate it. The initial mitigation was just basically they turned the service off, and once they released the patch, you have to be on the 10.14.3 supplemental update as well as the iOS 12.1.4 update to use group FaceTime, because they basically iterated the server, the backend, so it won't talk to clients that are not running those. So yeah, the mitigation pretty much stopped it from being exploited for the most part until they came out with the patch. I think initially I heard that they were coming out with a patch the week it was discovered, but obviously it took a couple more weeks for them to actually go through and test it and validate everything. But yeah, so it's now patched. So group FaceTime only works if you're on the version of the OS that's been patched for.
Didn't like a 12-year-old kid find out?
Yeah,
Like a 14-year-old kid found out.
It was something about like that. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, because it's if you submit it to the iOS bug bounty program, sure you can.
Actually, Apple did end up paying him, even though he wasn't in the value program.
They did, or they did.
They did.
Yeah, yeah.
What about that next one?
Other thing, if you have a developer account, and I hope most of you or all of you should, Apple is now going to be requiring the use of 2FA for all developer accounts, two-factor authentication. The 27th is the hard cutoff date. So there's plenty of stuff out there that tells you how to enable 2FA for your Apple ID that's tied to your developer account. So the deadline is next Thursday. Or is it next Wednesday? It's next Wednesday. So if you haven't done that, do that now, because because as of the 28th, you will be locked out if you don't have 2FA.
I was thinking what they did to server.
Moving on. While we're away, Jamf released 2 version updates. 10.9 was released back right around when we last had our meetup. And then 10.10 was released early this week. So lots of changes and bug fixes. I think 10.10 changes how enrollments are done a bit. So you will need to test that as soon as you upgrade. Make sure everything works the way it should be working. I think 10.10 also introduces you can set profiles to be installed during the pre-stage. So you can do things like put your cert profile on in the pre-stage. And so if you need something, and then tie dependencies upon that. So
Also,
build up under
converts to DB.
Hmm?
They also require you to convert to database.
Yes. I think 10.9 introduced the 5.7 dependency.
I think 10 is the InnoDB.
10.10 is the official InnoDB dependency, yes. So you need to convert your DB from MyISAM to InnoDB before you go to 10.10, if you haven't already done so. They include a couple of command line tools with Jamf Pro that'll help you convert. I beta tested one. And it works once we got the configuration and stuff out of the way as advertised. So you can do the InnoDB conversion yourself if you are so inclined. There is stuff you can do out there. It's basically just a MySQL command tied to each other that it gives you you run one command that gives you a list of tables that need to be converted, and then you feed that into another command that converts them. But going through the Jamf tool takes care of that all for you if you are lazy like I am. Also, while we were away, Monkey 3.5.3 was released. I read this earlier, now I'm completing what went out of my head, what was new in this one. But I know that 3.6 is coming with some of the built-in apps like Software Center, and it's rewritten in Swift. So that necessary evolution of that for us. Everything seems to be moving towards Swift at some point, especially since we don't know what's going to happen with Python at this point. Because Python 2.7 is end of life this year. So, and Apple has not made any decision on, or made any sort of announcement or given any sort of hint of whether or not they're going to what they're going to do about the Python 2.7 they're shipping. I know that they haven't migrated to 3 because of the licensing with 3. I think there's some terms in the licensing for 3 that they don't like, and I think that's why they haven't gone to that. But we'll see.
Mike has mentioned that they fixed a bug in Monkey where it wasn't rebooting after it's sold.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yes. So there, because yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah. So the bug was that for T2 machines, it needed to for T2 machines, it needs actually a shutdown
Yep.
to apply the firmware, the Bridge OS update. And a restart wouldn't do that, and you get into a condition where it wouldn't boot properly, or say or it would boot and then you have to reboot and then it would apply the Bridge OS update. So so they've and if I remember correctly, seeing them discover all that stuff, it was it's kind of like. The Apple tool that does it, I think, it's a very precarious sort of fix. And it's possible that something may change in an Apple update and may bring that again. But until then, it's working for now. So, Adobe shared device licensing. So we mentioned this before, that this was a big thing that Adobe got rid of their device licensing as of the end of 2018, December 31st. But I think the last meetup we talked about that they had not announced what was replacing it, and but apparently they have, and it's now shared device licensing. Is what it's called. And I was reading through the article, and it seems overly complicated, but par for the course for the Adobe. And essentially, you have to migrate from device licensing if you haven't already done so, and do shared device licensing for those situations where you need that for things like labs. Adobe still wants you to do their subscription individual licensing for your users because they make more money that way, but that is that's new. I encourage you, if you have Adobe or managing Adobe products, to read that article done by our friend Ben Toms, who seems to have a handle on it. But it does, like reading through it, it just seemed Byzantine to me. So I'm glad I don't have to manage it.
Not my problem anymore.
So
Federated ID.
Yeah.
Federated ID to sign into the cloud. Oh, it's great.
So
SAML settings are wonderful.
Tim Perfect, our friend Tim Perfect, who Wing Clone fame and a few other things, has a new project out called Mac Deploy Stick. So utilizing a couple of things that are currently working in T2 Macs, you can use the Mac Deploy script along with an Arduino keyboard, and you can basically do sort of a traditional imaging sort of workflow on T2 devices.
So it's like you're typing on. The tag. Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat, actually.
Yeah, it is very neat. So the scripts and things to make it all work are all open source. But his Tucanuna software company is actually selling Mac Deploy Sticks along with support and all that stuff if you want to do that. And I believe he's actually talking about it at the Twin Cities MacAdmin Meetup tonight. We'll see if we can get him over here to talk to everybody about that, because that seems like a good solution for some of you guys who may not be able to do DEP or have not gotten started with DEP and need a solution for the T2 Macs.
We talked about it on the MacAdmins podcast, I think 2 podcasts ago. So if you're interested in hearing about that, it sounds really cool.
Yes.
There's a number of videos on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and the last thing of interest is the Duo Labs folks dived into sort of like the T2 and all the messaging that happens between the T2 chip and the Mac, and it's a very detailed and technical paper, but it definitely sheds some light onto what's happening underneath. So. And the last bit that might be interesting for some of you is that there are now some third-party 100-watt adapters from Insignia, which you can get at Best Buy and Anchor. So they're third-party, so be careful what you pay for. But they should work for most people who want a cheaper alternative to buying Apple devices, Apple branded devices, which I'm sure is a no-no here in the Apple Store.
Why 100 watts?
That's the max the USB-C spec can handle.
Okay. I was wondering why they chose 100 watts.
Power.
I've got a handful of the Insignia ones that work pretty well.
And coming up this year, we have our list of conferences. First up is MacAdmin. That's next month. I believe tickets are still available. So if any of you are planning to go, if any of you do go, please say hi to Ben for me. And then after that, the big one is WWDC. They have announced the dates at least, but nothing specific. Of course, the lottery will be happening, at some point. And good luck to everybody.
Oh, I'm applying this year.
Yeah, if the developer deal, right?
Yeah. So Mac Deployment Conference in Calgary is happening this year. They didn't have one last year because they switched to a biennial schedule, from what I understand. But it is supposed to happen this year, and this year it happens between June 10th and 11th. And Mac DevOps YVR, which is in Vancouver, is happening on the 12th. So if you want to do a World in Canada tour, you can do both conferences that week.
It's pretty cool.
So, although I think the difference, I think it's a bit of a hike between Alberta and Vancouver, just a bit. So, it's probably not a road trip. So. And MacAdmins, PSU MacAdmins is in July from the 9th to the 12th this year. So, Mac Sysadmin is to be announced. I did not see an announcement on dates for that this year. And take a moment to mourn the loss of Tycho. This one has been great for the MacAdmin community. In case you didn't know, he passed away a couple of weeks ago. It was cancer, I believe, right? Yeah. So yeah. So the MacAdmin world lost a great one. And Mac Sysadmin was basically his baby. So, on one hand, I'm glad to see it continuing without him, and I'm sure it's probably not going to be the same without him. And lastly, second to last, is the JNUC, the Jamf Nation User Conference. This year, it's later than most years. It's in the middle of November.
Which is a
November 12th
great time to go to Minneapolis.
So yes, so while in October it was usually a balmy, 40 degrees on average, I think it drops usually about 20 degrees in November. So
We're missing one out there too. X-World.
X-World.
In Australia, if you want to go to Australia.
Oh yes. So,
I applied to.
and the last one is obviously MacTech. That hasn't been announced yet. But that's a pretty consistent one. It's usually in November, late November timeframe. So that's all that we have up there. So I'm sure there's things that I missed because it's been more than 6 weeks since we last had a meetup. So, but just in general, just from the What's New coverage, there's probably a couple of things I missed because there's been a lot of things happening. So then I forgot to write down. Anyway, so open discussion. So we can start the conversation off. So who wants to be a steel statue and who would like to be encased in concrete?
Concrete. For those who don't know, if they're listening on the picking me up. Yeah, just go to Philadelphia subreddit. You'll find out very quickly.
There's some links in the Philly MacAdmins channel that'll get you started. But yes, all the action happens on the Philly subreddit if you want to know what we're talking about.
Also, the furnace party.
Yes, the furnace party.
That's April 27th. We just put that up there.
Do it.
I actually have a question. So, does anybody know anything more about this keychain exploit that I saw a couple weeks ago. Some 18-year-old kid made an app that can that can get all your passwords out in clear text from a keychain. That's all I heard about. I saw a proof of concept that he put up online, and then nothing.
I haven't heard anything.
And he
else
was holding
from
Apple
it
hostage
either.
with it because they don't have a bug program for Mac OS.
I read that it requires physical access, so it's not really.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
bad.
That and he showed it to Patrick Wardle, I think.
Yeah.
And Patrick had said it's similar to the keychain exploit that he had
before,
discovered
yeah.
previously.
But which Apple fixed, but this one uses a different one. But the problem is,
Yeah.
like you said, is as long as it requires a physical computer, and I'm wondering if it doesn't work if you have file vault enabled and you're in a different user.
Well,
it's meant to be brought to the attention.
Of course.
There should be a bug down here for Mac OS.
Right. Well, I mean, it's two separate things. I mean, yes, the lack of a bug bounty program for macOS is probably discourages a lot of researchers from contacting Apple. Well, at least certain subset of researchers from contacting Apple.
18-year-old.
They probably sell it to whoever keeps making that Mac malware,
MacKeeper.
Yeah, that was the old bug.
I thought that was good.
Are you talking about that?
I installed it on every computer.
It promises to clean up everything.
I feel so much faster that Mac keeps installed.
Safari seems snappy.
Are you talking about that bug bounty program that pays like $1.2 million for iOS?
Yeah.
Yes,
they have a bug
Yeah.
bounty program for iOS. There's none for macOS.
I don't think you get $1 million per bug.
No,
No, it's not Apple. There's another one. Zerodium.
Oh.
Apple also has one that pays out like $200,000 if you find something without, like if you can crack the secure enclave or something. They pay ridiculous amounts for certain things. So.
Yeah, and Zerodium actually they market where you actually have the companies or the countries have to pay a certain amount to be on this news feed. And this news feed has all sorts of 0 days.
Oh.
But they not only, you have to post to them what the exploit is and see if they're interested, and they pay certain amounts. So the highest one is like, I think 1.7 or $2.3 million. But it has to be, you have to continuously be able to exploit it, and then it also has to be a zero touch. You just go to a website and it just takes over your phone. Zero touch. No click or anything, and then it drops down to like, I think 800,000 for yeah. But yeah, so Apple they have a niche, but this other Zerodium is actually picking up a lot of 0 days. People go where the money is.
Yeah.
But the point is, that's all.
The only reason I was asking that is because I was asked by InfoSec at work, like, have you heard anything about this? And when I looked at it, I was like, doesn't look like it's remote or anything. It looks like you physically have to be on the computer, and if you physically are on one of our computers, then you got through a lot of security. So
That's kind of how I felt about the group FaceTime bug. I'm like, I think I've known 2 people in existence who even use group FaceTime.
well, that one was still actually a pretty bad bug because even if you're not even attempting to do anything,
These are reviews, yeah.
Working at high school, that's all the kids are doing. Like, they're not in class, they're like,
All the kids.
FaceTime or like, you know, imagine like, what kind of projects you get into high school with your FaceTime that bug.
So glad I'm old before phones.
you got all your stupid out of the way beforehand.
Before it got recorded and put on the interwebs.
Yes.
So, I had another question. I can't remember what it was.
Don't worry, we'll come back to you.
I got an easy one. People have Apple TVs deployed. How do you both stop it from auto-updating and also prevent it from telling you there's updates available?
The best you can do is the 90, I think it's like up to 90 days. Deferral. It acts as an iOS device.
Because it's awful. Like, I was like, okay, cool, turn off automatic updates. Well, guess what? It still has a little pop-up, and I know if you get past it because you can't get the code because there's a screen on the screen.
Can you disable that word config profile?
The best you can do is
I looked at every profile saying
you can create a content filter rule that would block it, but the only way where it won't basically destroy any updates from happening on any Apple devices like networks if you have Apple TVs and they're on subnet or MAC address filtering.
resort to putting them into the MDM and just intentionally updating them every now and then because I can reboot them afterwards.
I mean, I kind of have, we've been doing Apple, Lisa Fortune Apple TVs for about a year now. Those haven't really had too many issues with updates. They've actually only gotten better because with the most recent updates, you can now push out apps. That's way more manageable than it used to be. But like, I know iOS, there's been times where like an iOS update happens and you just lost the ability to install any form of managed app. Like, thanks, Apple.
It sounds like a feature request, though. The ability to suppress the update notification.
You know, they build all this conference room tech, features into it. Great. Now use it in a conference room without a remote in there, and you can't get around this dialogue.
We put it in a lot better.
Hmm?
We put it in a lot better.
Yeah, we still want them to be able to stream to it and do other things.
But you can do AirPlay with still a lot better.
You're obviously doing it wrong.
So, yeah,
You're holding it wrong.
Yeah.
There's
You can't watch my TV.
You're not supposed to put it in that pocket.
I think even on like the Jamf like supported marketplace or whatever, it's a free app. Basically you push it to it, and really all is the screensaver app that you can configure like different photos for it, and using app configures, telling where to pull those photos from. And that, I mean, you do some of that for that. You just allow AirPlay to happen. And then, as long as you're not trying, like, yes, Netflix and YouTube and get everyone here.
I don't manage Apple TVs, but can you set the software update server on an Apple TV like you can Mac?
I don't know.
I tried that through a profile. Actually,
Doesn't work.
it
Okay, I was gonna say that if that's the case, it's pointing to a black hole.
Yep. Yeah, a couple things online said like, I was reading some stuff on like blocking updates on iOS devices. I'm like, all right, maybe this will work on the Apple TV. So I made a profile, pointed it to like, Nowheresville, checked for updates. iOS update 12.1.
Have the answers? Don't have Apple. Oh wait, sorry. The building starts getting really dark, closing in on me.
Goes to Steve Jobs, appears in the corner.
Maybe that
I'm sorry. Came down with the iCloud?
Yeah.
Well, how's it unstable?
I'm happy to hear about the death of Back to My Mac with Mojave.
Oh, it's gone?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, it was actually a thing for.
The dean of my university, pretty much the whole reason I exist, insists on keep using this, and is always complaining because things are disappearing or not syncing to our desktop. She has like 200 gigs worth of stuff.
On the desk.
Yeah. So, always so happy when it's gone. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things where like Dropbox, Box, and OneDrive,
iCloud.
I love Dropbox.
iCloud.
I mean, yeah.
Like that seems more of a
Wasn't my Mac
better
more remote
solution for
control,
that
though?
kind of
It was
syncing.
both.
Yeah.
It was, which made it extra confusing because yes, it is also for remote control, but it was also a feature where you could have like your desktop and whatnot synced between all of your Macs.
But now they have that with
iCloud
Sync.
iCloud
So,
Sync.
you know,
So,
that's where it moved to. So.
and I'm not entirely sure, but I think the remote function may have been kind of wonky.
Yeah.
It was real janky. It set up a weird VPN tunnel. Yeah. like you couldn't,
like people screaming right now.
Self-signed certificates, what could go
with
wrong?
server app, you couldn't have the VPN service and Back to My Mac enabled because it used the same service.
Cool. Because they use PPTP.
Yeah, I was about to say that. PPTP.
I think it was at least IPsec.
Okay. At least it's some
Yeah, but it was janky as hell.
Apple in there.
So,
I worked maybe one time.
I never got it to work exactly right.
This was like 10.6 too. Like,
The last good operating system.
on disk.
Oh, I finally got Apple Seed access.
Oh.
That's kind of cool. Haven't had a chance to do anything with it because I'm still trying to get basic stuff working, but APNS. I might have questions for after the stream.
well, yeah, after the stream is off, yes. If you want to talk about anything on the Apple Seed, yes.
Not even NDA, but something.
secure. Better safe than sorry if we want to talk about beta software.
Has anybody upgraded to? I know Jam 10.10 came out like yesterday. Has anybody upgraded at all, or has anybody been testing it?
No.
Because we're still using 10.9.
No, we're still in 10.8. I haven't gotten to 10.9 yet. I could not update I haven't gotten around to updating the MySQL version of my staging because it's on 5.6.
Yeah.
I need to go to 5.7 in order to go to 10.10. So
yeah, we can't say too much. Yeah, we're still running 10.7 because that was a big deal for us.
It sounds like we need, with a couple of the features that are out, it sounds like we need to be on 10.10 sooner rather than later. But you'll need to increment because 10.9 includes the schema change. There's a schema change.
Yeah, 10.9 was had some nice changes that we really want. 10.7 we found is Jam's admin, at least in 10.7, is really janky. Like put notes in there, nope, doesn't stay half the time, or it will stay if you meet a certain character, and it's like, okay. We also found if you rename a package in 10.7, in 10.7's Jamf admin, and then save it and then replicate it, and then you quit and open it up later, it can't find the package because it didn't rename it or something. It's been really funky. So we're really anxious to upgrade to something other than 10.7. Things take a while.
Yeah, the 10.9, in 10.9, it addresses the applications table and basically simplifies it. It basically removes duplicates.
Oh, good.
And I think it basically it's like there's a list, because right now I think the applications table includes every application from every machine. So you have multiple listings, multiple records of an application. Yeah. So the applications table is gigantic. So the schema change basically says if this application shows up, we just reference it back. Cool. And so, but depending on how large your application table is, that change may take a while.
Yeah,
so that's definitely an overnight or weekend upgrade.
Well, all changes for me are overnight and weekend now. So, and actually, it's like a 4-hour time period.
Yeah, something like that.
2 hours. Oh, you can't do that because Australia's online. Oh, you can't do that because UK's online. Oh, you can't do that because.
Yep. Trying to find the sweet spot.
We have a list of it. They're like, why is that one not? Like, why can't we do anything on Saturday and Sunday? Because nobody's working, basically. But yeah, so you upgraded one of them to 10.7 before 10.9. You said.
No. I mean, I actually had to pull out of 10.9 upgrade because it did not upgrade the database correctly.
Yeah, okay.
So I had to basically back out of it.
Yeah.
So we're still in 10.8. So I have to try again at some point.
Yeah.
Because we need to go up to 10.10.
What, did we build it? Or?
No, I just restored from the database. Reinstalled 10.8.
Anyone seen 10.10 at all? I mean, it just came out the other day.
I haven't even been testing it yet.
I'm wondering if they were working on a Splunk plugin for it. I don't know if it's come out at 10.10.
You use the Splunk plugin with like a cloud instance?
Let's see if it's in the notes.
I guess it was mainly Mac specific deployments within 10.10.
Mine's got 8 recommended.
See, we still have it working. It's just we have to do some back-end Splunk stuff to get the data in there. So,
yeah, it seems like.
Well, what are you trying to get into Splunk?
Well, we had wonderful McAfee encrypting our Macs. After 8-month battle, I finally won. And now we're encrypting with Jamf. But they were like, we want to make sure that we get our daily reports that these machines are encrypted because of the older end. So all it was just creating an account on our MySQL database in Jamf, and then having Splunk connect to it. And it was a simple query.
Yeah.
Simple. Is file vault 2 encrypted or is it? So
Direct DB access.
it took a while. It took a while because of the inertia of people who didn't. So.
There's also another change in 10.10, by the way. Self-service for macOS configured to install automatically. Computers with macOS 10.10 will receive 10.8 self-service, and if you're running 10.11 or later, you receive the latest version. So they're slowly moving out of that too. Now, so.
Yep.
So,
Swift dependencies.
Yep. Upcoming support for Java 11. Yeah. See if there's any new news.
Keep riding the Java 8 train until then.
One day they'll just get rid of Java
Like they are with Flash.
forever. I'm talking about Jamf.
Well, that's a Tomcat dependency. Unless they rewrite the entire web app and something
They will.
else. I think that's going to
Like
be a
Rust.
dependency.
I don't know, they
Or
just, what, they
something.
just bought that one MDM or something? People say Mofi. There's some other MDM they bought out. It was like more education focused. But,
Oh, right.
DI.
You're based in Europe, right?
yeah, they had. I feel like it's kind of like that type of application would go more towards Jamf now. Because like how their setup was very like
Very similar.
such a competitor, but more ed focused versus where Jamf now is business focused. But being in education, I'd like to see some of these features come to Jamf. Like it had like the Apple Classroom clone, but it was kind of like instead of like Casper focus of today.
Yeah, I don't see anything about Splunk unless it's beta, but
I didn't think so. I know they were working on it, or else.
I mean, we have our JSS going, talking to Splunk.
Yeah.
Well, I think we just set it up traditionally, just reading logs and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing you have to be careful of when you start integrating other applications in with Splunk is Splunk will charge you for it. So a great thing is, well, because not necessarily the app itself, but the ingestion, because they charge you by the amount you ingest. So if you stick it on all your Macs or stick it in key points where there's a lot of data you're ingesting, you can quickly go from, I think it's like 500 megs is the free version.
It's ridiculous.
And you can quickly go up from 500 megs up to like 5 gigs.
Yeah, it can be ridiculous, but I'm not worried about that. That's some other team's problem. The only Splunk that we're doing right now is just going to the server and grabbing the pools. So there's not much going on there.
Is that running on your main DB server?
Primary DB server? The Splunk itself?
Yeah.
No.
No, I meant like, no, the connection. Talking to
Your
your
forwarder.
Yeah, that's talking. That's why we have it backed up and reiterated and all that other stuff. Eventually, it's going to the cloud. We should be going to the cloud within a month. So, and then we'll have to do,
You're not. I don't think you're going to be able to have that access.
I know.
No.
Well,
That's been my issue. We're currently in Jamf Cloud. We can't do anything.
I'll worry about that.
It's all like CSV export out.
I'll worry about that when the time comes.
But you can have access to the API, which you can see how many partitions are encrypted.
We could. The problem is the people that need to see that are not Mac technical. They want to see it in a Splunk developer form only.
So what you could do is you could do a web API call using an advanced search, advanced computer search, pull down the information and then put it into a log.
Well,
and
the
ingest it
API
that
call,
way.
that's exactly kind of what we're doing now. When I was talking to Mark Malasio, he was like, yeah, we want this plug-in, but we still have to go API call. Problem is line of sight, because it's going to be out in the cloud. I'll worry about that when the time is, but also, I only have 70 machines, so once we migrate that database, I have 4 hours with like Mr. and Mrs. Jeff, like the greatest engineers ever. So I'll have like 2 hours to ask them a million questions, and one of them will be that. All right, it's not going to take 4 hours unless, to migrate all that. You get a 4-hour window from what I understand. And if it's done in 2, you still have them for another 2 hours. So I already have my list of questions ready to go. And one of them will be that. Is there a line of sight? Because all the tools and everything will be useless.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general that's one of the downsides of Jamf Cloud as it is. Limitations of Jamf Cloud as it is right now. But I know that this is not a new complaint. So they've been hearing this for a while.
Well,
so
the problem is they only have one 8443 port, and that's basically it. I mean, there's no other everything else is out of
Right,
line of
no,
sight.
I think,
So-
I think it's one of those things where I'm sure there's internal discussions about how to provide the sort of reporting and peeks into kinds of things that you can do on-prem for cloud customers, especially for those customers that need that sort of thing for like compliance and reporting and that sort of thing.
I mean, they offer tiers now, so I mean, maybe in a higher tier you
Well,
can get
yeah,
it, but then they're higher
Jamf
tier.
Premier, which, when you go to cloud, it's like $10,000 right off
20K.
the bat.
20K, I believe.
Or it's 20,000. Other than maybe IP whitelisting, it didn't really do much for me.
And then
Everything
you
else
get
I need.
unlimited global storage. That's really the big thing, and you get 2
care about
dedicated
that.
servers. So
And I can have my own dev, my own sandbox with different versions of Jamf.
of course, but
Again, I don't care about that. It wasn't worth the 20 grand, even if it was my money or not. So, but we're gonna have to figure this out. We're gonna have to figure this out.
If I only paid 20 grand.
yeah, right, of course.
I'd
It's
have
20
to
grand
pay-
on top of your license.
All the
I pay
Jamf,
20 grand per day.
all the Jamf tools use 22 SSL, and that's out of sight, can't use them. So I've been using nothing but the web browser for everything, except for Composer,
Yeah.
for building packages. Other than that, I have not touched any tool, because it's gonna be useless once it goes to the cloud. Mark said they might even get rid of them.
Yeah, I've been hearing that as well.
Other tools like
Like
Well,
with
all
Recon
those-
or remote.
well, all those
some of them I
apps-
could see, but
All those apps
Admin,
are
everyone
written
uses
in
they're
real
real
basic,
basic,
or Zozo.
Zozo.
Zozo is it's called now.
which is why, yeah, and they just converted them to 64-bit
Yes.
two versions ago
Yeah,
finally.
yeah.
But I mean, they're Jamf, sorry, but they're crap. Their apps are crap. I mean, they were great 10 years ago when they came out, but
Yes.
they're
I don't
crap
use,
right now.
I don't
Yeah,
use them
but-
because they're
Composer's
useless.
the only one that is usually reliable. Jamf admin we have to use.
And that was the
obviously.
worst one. That used to be the worst app of the bunch.
Yeah.
They were telling me, don't even use that. Use auto package or
I-
auto,
I literally only
That is
back
still
in the day.
that is still good
Right.
advice, actually.
Why do you
Yes,
still use
you
Jamf?
probably shouldn't be used.
we don't have
Composer's
a-
only real
we don't have
use
HTTP
is for
Oh, we do.
snapshotting a file system to troubleshoot.
Because you need it, basically.
So you shouldn't be
Yeah,
using
you
it
Be
for,
real careful how you use Composer.
yeah, you really shouldn't be
Remember
using
GDS? Remember that
Composer,
horrible
because
failure?
snapshotting,
I just heard
snapshotting,
about that.
if you don't know what
It
you're
was
doing,
like
is always a bad
that
idea.
came out when we started.
Yeah, JDS was their attempt at a.
auto package still free.
Yes, auto packager is still free too.
Yeah.
Does
anybody pick that up?
No,
Yeah, it's always
That's a shame.
kind of a hot mess. Like, every now and then my
Is it not-
it
is it not
loses
being developed
connectivity
anymore?
to
no,
the
the guy who wrote it left the company and is doing something else. But the IP still belongs to, what do they call it? Linda Group, yes. But nobody from Linda Group has picked up development on it.
It has been updated in years, right?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, no.
It still works. Tap on wood.
Still works.
It's not on GitHub at all, right?
No,
Wait,
No.
what?
no, because it was developed by Linda Group,
Auto packager?
Auto Packager.
It's on GitHub.
Is it on GitHub?
Yeah. So I get it.
But, yeah, but nobody's picked up.
Package or auto package?
Auto packager.
Which is better.
Well, you
Well-
need auto packager is the GUI for auto package.
Okay.
It's a GUI.
A
There you
GUI.
go.
It's not the GUI, but it is the de facto GUI.
Right. If you need a GUI,
Mhm.
you can do auto package
It's nice to have.
and set up everything that you need to set up without auto packager. But if you're just getting into it, auto packager makes things easy for you.
So yeah, it's yeah, if you're not familiar with it, it's a good way to get a feel for how auto package works.
Yeah. It's really nice.
It's a hate snapshot.
I can't use it anymore.
I put our auto package repo on an internal GitHub. So now I just edit everything once and then push to,
Nice.
well, I have 2, because I have one that goes to staging and one goes to production. And they have the same recipes, so staging and production get the same packages.
I just started trying out Kenobi App Server on our NetSuffs appliances.
You just like the name.
It's a little roundabout how you have to add things like
Right.
It's weird, but it's nice. It works
Yeah,
well enough that if you
yeah, I
can't,
haven't-
you know.
I did some vanilla testing for the community patch server. But it's been months since I've touched that.
Yeah, the Kenobi one is nice because if you have a NetSUS appliance, you just install the run file and it just goes and it adds it to your NetSUS web interface. And, you know, it's really nice to be able to just log into one thing and be like, oh, cool, I can update all this here. So, yes, I still use
Has
NetSUS.
anybody still maintaining NetSUS?
The last release was the one, who released that? Was,
Isn't that bad?
yeah, Ben Toms, right?
Yeah.
That was version 5, and that came out in like October. And I think he flat out said, like, I don't think this is going to go any more farther because Apple has, you know, put the writing on the walls that they want to get rid of the SUS ability, so why should we manage it?
Yes. So yeah, I mean, like, there's
still
nothing in Mojave. Like, you cannot start
Mhm.
anything in Mojave. If you upgrade to Mojave, your services still work. But
You can add SUS in Mojave still. It just
can you? I thought like the new installations you couldn't do your SUS.
you can set it. You just have to disable the EV whatever check they have basically. But when Apple takes away that ability, which they're basically just going to say, no, you need SSL, and then even if you have an SSL cert, it has to be an Apple SSL cert. Which you know, once they say you can't stop that, that's the end of SUS forever for Apple. Which
Probably be 10
I
IC.
still caching server.
Yeah.
Caching server.
And I hate caching server. And my InfoSec people hate caching server, and my networking people hate caching server.
It'd be nice if Cisco
Does
released
share
their
your
solution,
connection over USB now?
which doesn't require Apple hardware.
Great.
Yeah,
I will get on
they
top
have
of my
a
USB network.
they have a box. Don't they?
Yeah.
It's next to my token.
An appliance, a caching appliance.
Mhm.
I haven't heard
Do they
anything about
have
it though.
one?
have they?
Because if they have one, it would be wonderful.
Well, Cisco apparently was working on something, but I don't know.
Well,
if they've
it's
actually-
used internally.
See, because that's what I would love, is to be able to, like Reposado, but for a caching server instead.
Yeah.
Because that would be, because I'm sorry, you can't ask enterprises to be like, yeah, just set up a bunch of Mac Minis in your closets. Yeah, okay. Sure. You know, I mean,
Well, technically, that's what I'm going to be doing going forward.
so what you're saying is you're going to have like 50,000 Mac Minis?
Well,
just-
maybe not 50,000, maybe like 50.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a good wall going over on the one side of the road. Rack mount appliance.
Yeah, they have them. I mean,
You mean the X server?
it's an enclosure for a Mac Mini.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have one.
Yeah, like it takes that little mini and makes it.
No, I started
No,
calling
no,
tell
it's
me
two.
that those caching for Apple.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Cisco apparently has something, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's. I don't think it's a.
I'll be
public
dead
Those
honest.
10 servers
Yeah.
still do caching server? Is that like one of the last two things it still does?
Well, it's built into the OS, so technically no.
Yeah, it's no longer part of server app.
I think all it does is
Jamf
profile
gave us the
management.
ability to manage it at least now, which is
That's it.
nice.
Literally all it does is profile management. And it still costs.
Oh yeah, I think that was new
$20
in
just to profile.
10.9.
Yeah, that was new in
Nope.
10.9.
No, $20. I mean, it's free if you bought it already.
It's available now in 10.9 in Jamf, but
Yes.
you could always create your
With
own
a profile, yeah, with profile.
That's
creator
been
or
that's
manual.
been a thing for a while now.
I would say though,
you had to roll your own, but Jamf now
Yeah.
finally added.
if you can put caching server on Linux or in a Docker container, I'm all
Again,
for
what
it.
I'm trying to say is like we have it's from a company called Appliances. Like
It's called
it-
appliance. It's an appliance.
It's called Cashbox, but it's
Okay.
called Appliances.
Is that specifically like App Store and software updates, or is it just?
From what I've seen from the graphs, is like it's pulling anything that caching like Apple caching server can pull. I've seen pretty much the same type of data,
Appliances.
but it also does like YouTube and all that other garbage.
So it's like
It's
a
like
complete like net
It's
style
a
caching system.
a
Okay.
full cache, not specific.
Yeah, but it
Apple
does
side.
Microsoft, it does Apple,
It'll cache anything.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
that'll be a hard no from.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a no
Yeah,
from our
especially
security
with all
team
this
too.
stuff.
Very hard
I'm just
no
waiting
on
for.
that.
InfoSec. What does that mean? Oh, caches every single thing that comes into the network.
No, again,
Uh-huh.
not everything.
No, I mean, I know, I'm just
Right, like.
joking about it.
Yeah.
It's not a mountain I'm gonna die on.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so it's an evolving situation. We'll see what happens.
I like it. I'm just going to click, don't enable that. instead of having a long list of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because we still have locations that don't have a great connection back to the main. It's basically one of those things where, upgrades haven't happened yet. So. And there are still some offices, especially from our acquisitions, that don't have the fat pipes that we do. So
Comcast and then play.
local distribution points are going to be needed heavily for that. And like international locations, we're going to have to set up distribution points.
Yeah.
So setting up caching server for that as well.
Yeah, and that's something we're gonna have to look at doing, like, in my end is, because we're actually, our distribution points. But we're gonna be spinning up some VMs for our file shares and stuff, and
Yeah, we have one of ours is,
between the cloud and.
yeah, we have, our main distribution point is on a VM.
Yeah.
So.
Not wrong with that.
No. All it is I/O at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you get the storage, you might as well use it.
Well, the nice thing about the VM too is if a system has to go down or needs to be decommissioned, just grab it and put it on a different machine. Yep. Same exact stuff, just beautiful, different location. Yep.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, all of our infrastructure is on VMs as well.
All of our infrastructure is on VM currently.
VMs for everyone.
Which makes sense.
The only thing physical is our legacy server.
Slowly dying.
Well, no, I mean the server's.
Well, yeah, the server's still running, but we're going to be repurposing it.
You can try my Xer from my cold dead hands.
We still have
Only
one.
with power
I'm
PC.
sure you do.
We still have one.
Well,
They run the 6i really well.
I really do, yeah. It's not-
Yeah,
it's
so our X service is not running, but it's still racked.
Yeah. I mean,
Museum? MacAdmins Museum?
We already got rid of 2 other ones from years ago.
I mean,
It's not even on, so it's just sitting there.
It's just sitting in the rack.
Collecting dust.
Yeah, it's sitting in the rack.
Yeah, because if you pull it, you're going to lose your rack space.
well, also
Yes.
if you pull it out, the rack will tip over because the thing's because the thing's so heavy.
Yeah, that fascist, that rack space.
No,
is
rack
that-
space is at a premium.
Oh, yeah. There's people that have,
Come on, you just
Well,
tell them. Cool.
Surge has probably about like 6 Mac Minis stacked up in the LAN suite. And then if you look at everyone else that's doing dev work, they have like their development servers and stuff like that are all on their desks because they can't fit it in the rack space.
Yeah.
Every time a Mac Mini dies, he just goes in there and he swaps it out really quick.
You guys have a new building. They couldn't devote some of that to more racks?
No.
Wait. That
That
whole big long light bar is a rack.
See, the new building is for all the developers who can't fit in the old building.
I mean, it's phones, right?
No, yeah, they don't
Yeah,
even
there's
have
no
phones.
guest phone.
Like some of our
They don't even have personalized space.
some of our new buildings don't even have Ethernet ports.
Oh, no.
That happened at QPC, they ruled the day.
Yeah, that's the thing is I'm all sitting there like,
They had them out Ethernet ports as well, they ruled the day.
you really are putting a lot on your Aruba there.
Well, I think there's like
Open space,
They have-
everybody has
I
their
think
laptops.
they have a lot of labs in the new building.
I'm sure. You probably have like
I
two.
still think Wi-Fi 6 is.
No, I think, like, they have, like-
finally plausible.
Well, I mean, there's
So no
a
racks in the
handful
new
per
building.
floor.
AC is fast. It's fine.
Well-
the problem is not that. The problem is if you need a wired connection. It
No,
sucks
because
to not have
they need
one.
the space for actual.
That's what we have. I've had some trouble with the neighbor.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, and also,
I mean, there's
problem
certainly
with
IDF
wireless
closets,
is-
but there's no.
So
There
Well,
were
there's a lot of
dedicated.
development work.
There's no
Yeah,
dedicated.
there's no
with-
dedicated data
Yeah.
center
For-
in each
for
building.
the hotspot devices they use.
Yep.
And they're all radiating this wireless radio. You're sitting there with your Mac right next to it. You can barely even connect to any other network aside from them.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
where a lot of the developers I see, they have hardwire in their
I mean,
computer.
don't get me wrong, it saves a ton of money not to have to run copper through a building, but like, okay. I get it.
We have raised floors. on
Yes, we do.
That stuff, so.
The building I'm in has raised floors, but on the first floor.
It also helps if you don't have concrete walls. If you got
Yeah, we
concrete
don't have-
walls,
we don't
your
have those
wireless is
either.
gonna be,
That was a good question I wanted to ask. You guys heard anything about better integration with Active Directory and password changes?
Uh,
Yeah, and,
For what?
For what?
14.3, right?
Mojave?
Password changes? We haven't seen any difference.
No, I mean,
Like right
That's why I
now,
have Jamf Connect,
right now-
Jamf Connect / Nomad.
Okay,
Takes care of
we don't have Jamf yet.
Jamf Connect.
no, honestly, don't, AD plugin is probably not getting any love anytime ever again.
I'm not,
And also,
I-
I'm
the
not
mobile
heard-
accounts, they don't.
Well, I
like
should probably wait
bubble.
to mention that.
I'm not binding my machines anymore to AD,
Yeah.
actually, because Jamf
Self-bind.
Jamf Connect grabs a Kerberos ticket, and everything I need is in that ticket. So I don't even have to create a mobile account anymore. It can just be a local account and have them sign in. But I have smart cards, so I have no choice. I had to go to Jamf Connect, Nomad, PK, and IT.
Man.
As a matter of fact, Joel literally had to write Nomad into the Jamf API like 2 days ago. Because my rep was like, oh, yeah, we'll have it. Joel's writing it now. I'm like, wait a minute, we already paid for this.
Yeah, he's sitting
Why
behind
did
you.
Yeah, and sure enough.
He's driving into your house.
Well,
Be
because he's
careful.
done- Joel's done that before because we're always guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Like if we do something, he'll write it right then and there. But I was told
I actually
this was
have,
already done.
again, once we stop the stream, I might have some.
And then all of a sudden,
Do we want to talk
Oh, yeah,
about
that's-
NDA stuff?
Okay. Yeah,
I can
also-
kill it.
Bye, one person
Yes.
watching.
Bye, Mike.
Mike, yeah.
So,
Bye, Mike.
No date on the next meetup, but,
Friday
or the
social.
next, but we'll probably be back here
Yeah, it'll be
in 2
more.
months
Are we still trying to do, Temple
for
Part 2?
the furnace party.
oh,
April 27th, do attend.
Yeah. So, but we'll have an update for you guys on that soon.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next time.
Toodles.